Good to see you again, Mike.
You too.
How is life in Casa de Shanks?
Casa de Shanks. Empty right now in our usual house, but we're down in Los Angeles. That for all you burglars out there, our house is empty, but there is a house sitter, and he's armed. It's good. It's good. We're just enjoying some sunshine in Los Angeles and doing the LA tap dance.
Is it nice being down there as opposed to up here full time?
It's just the weather. There's a lot of things we miss about Vancouver. I mean, it's very much more peaceful, obviously, and quiet and less stress living wise, and we just enjoying the weather, and the kids are getting to swim every day and things like that. So that's new because we've had terrible winters in Vancouver, and the weather, as everyone that's been around Vancouver knows, the weather is not exactly the selling point. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to be in the sunshine for a change, for sure.
We'll talk about Atlantis a little bit briefly. The last time that I talked to you was just prior to the airing of First Contact and The Lost Tribe here in the States.
Oh, okay.
And were you happy with those episodes as they were finished? Was there anything that you wanted to see in them?
I only saw them on TV, so I only saw them sort of the quick once. Mm-hmm. I was pretty happy with them. I was very happy with getting to see the pacing and the production value. Everything was great. It was the first part especially was quite big in terms of television, and of course the stuff obviously working with David Hewlett was a blast. Right. Yeah.
As far as Daniel's involvement or your contribution to the episode, anything that you would have liked to have seen done different, or?
No, I mean, I enjoyed the interplay. It's one of those episodes that begs for a little more, for another one kind of thing. That's the key selling point for me was like, yeah, let's do that again kind of thing. So I wanted to see a little bit more interaction, if the show continued, but apparently it didn't. We'll get into that.
Your relationship with the Asgard have always been very strong. Obviously, you play Thor.
Right.
What was it like going in there and bringing them back?
It was funny just because they were bad guys this time. So it was, just from a Michael standpoint, being able to look at the Asgard who you used to find lovable and cute, that all of a sudden you went, "You little bugger!" It was that was quite cute about it. I mean, an interesting storyline. I would like to see more of that fleshed out. What a great antagonist for the team, and an interesting and very, quite frankly, what's the best way to put it? A very worthy opponent for starters, obviously, and just a very palpable, believable twist. You can really believe that this powerful race. We've seen them; they're almost too good. Our guys in our universe, and all of a sudden these other guys, you sort of go, well, yeah, they're trying to survive, and they're going to be looking out for themselves first. So it's a bit more, almost more palpable than the Asgard we dealt with. Yeah.
With the success the Arc of Truth and Continuum had, we know that there's going to be a third SG-1 movie on the way. We know Brad and Carl are writing it, and Martin's going to come back and direct it again. Have you heard anything as far as it's been approached as far as a time
just
frame?
been green-lit, so...
I should be asking you guys the questions because apparently you know more than I do, because I didn't know that. I mean, I'd read it, actually, I think on GateWorld that the movie had been greenlit, so unless we're living in the heads or on the golf course with the producers, they don't call us and say, guess what, until there's a time for a contract or something like that. So I know very little about it. I've heard that, I heard first it was like spring, and then it was summer, and then it's fall, and now I'm going, well, what's next, Next year spring, next year summer, so...
Well, Brad's gone on record as far as stating that the third film is going to be a lot more Jack O'Neill-centric,
right,
and that Rick's involvement in it is going to be a lot more than even what was in Continuum.
Right.
Do you think bringing back the original core group for a much more classic SG-1 feel is, the best way to go for the third film?
I think so. I mean, we wrapped up our ongoing arc with Arc of Truth, and Continuum was very standalone. I think there's still avenues you could go with the other group, but at the same time, I think if you're going to go around the horn and see what kind of ideas you got, certainly an original team episode centered around Rick's character Jack, that would be, that certainly harkens back to the days of, and I think to certainly do it while there's while we're not pushing around walkers, is the sooner the better kind of thing. I'm curious to obviously see what kind of story we're going to come up with, but I obviously trust Brad and Carl to come up with something brilliant and see what falls off the truck. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. Yeah, for sure.
When you take a look at the franchise, from its early development, it started, I think, back in 1996, through the last 13 years, is the Stargate franchise or brand, do you think it's in a stronger position now than back when it first started? As
Oh
far
yeah,
as-
obviously, it's the franchise itself. There was no franchise. We were kind of a fledgling show that we didn't know what we wanted to be when we started out.
Spin-off of a big blockbuster
Yeah, which is
summer
as you know, has a
film.
great track record.
Oh,
spinning
very.
off from films is the success rate is very high. But we absolutely. I mean, there is a franchise now. There is a brand name. The fact that there's so many incarnations of the same thing that are happening. Whether it be the failing video game, sorry, I had to slide that in there. The video game, or the merchandising, or the various shows, the movies, and whatever. I mean, there's a real entity out there, and obviously it still doesn't rival something like Star Trek or Star Wars in terms of its size and scope. But the fact that it found its niche and it's part of pop culture now and whatever. That's we never saw that coming, so it's been quite amazing to sort of see the development of it. I'm very curious to see the new show, because I definitely believed that going darker and more serious with the tone was called for. It was necessary to keep doing the same thing without taking a risk. I think ran the risk of running it into the ground. So I think you have to try something. Of course, that's risky in itself as well. So I'm curious to see it as much as anybody, but we'll see what happens with it.
You got the opportunity to reprise the role of Jackson for a couple of the audiobooks that were produced on CD for Big Finish Productions. How did that all come about?
I got called up out of the blue, and they said that some people in England were doing these audiobooks, and would I be willing to do it after I was doing, I think, a convention or something like that there. And my first thought was, wow, why didn't somebody think of doing this before? Because,
It's a neat idea.
yeah, especially with the, with the show being winding down at that particular point, and so much backstory that was still left unfulfilled, to actually take some of the actors and tell some original stories, because it's a way to keep it alive and keep it real in the minds of the audience. It was a great idea. So I thought that was my first reaction to it. Was, what a great idea! Why hasn't somebody done this before? It's like 10 years later.
Was it your first foray into voice work?
I had done an audiobook before this. This was a bit different because this was a bit more acty than the audiobook I did. I tried to keep the acting to a minimum, but it just came out. I don't know why. But this was definitely, because there was another actor involved in the process. So it was a bit more radio play-ish at times.
Between the two, you did one solo and then one with Claudia.
And one with
also.
Claudia. And that was odd, just because Claudia wasn't there, and I was kind of I was doing the secondary voice on it. So that was a little bit odd. I mean, I'm not obviously not a terribly experienced voice alone actor. Claudia actually is, and so I was a little bit. Okay, but the best part was knowing Claudia, knowing her rhythms. I was able to figure out where it was going to fit, and I still haven't heard it, but I heard it's turned out well. So they were good stories, though. I appreciate it, though.
Last month marked what we can assume will be your final appearance on Burn Notice.
I did not know that.
Yeah. What makes you assume that? The fact that he was lying in a pool of his own blood at the end of it?
Oh. I heard him talking about it with a man, and I'm like, maybe I should keep my mouth shut. Maybe I wasn't supposed to hear that, Mike.
Yeah.
Aside from the flashback possibility.
Yeah, of course.
Were you happy with Victor's overall character arc over the course of the episodes you did?
I talked about it with. I did an audio commentary for the final, the finale for their DVD release with Matt Nix and Bruce Campbell, and I really enjoy their company and become somewhat friends with Matt, and he's really smart, funny, and what's the best way? Professional, and very talented, and is the head of that show. And we talked about it at the time when I shot it, and we talked about it at the finale too, and when we taped the finale commentary, and it was very true. He said, yeah, you have no idea how many people have been sort of saying, why'd you kill off Victor? Why'd you kill off Victor? And he said, but you know what? We talked about it before. Having an episode like that for the finale, having a story like that is worth 10 or 20 of the little bits that you get when you're sort of like the recurring character who's, Victor can constantly reappear and would get somewhat annoying after a while. Mm-hmm. And
keep going, dude. Shutting the blind. Good, that's good.
Victor keeping popping in would be a little bit redundant, and repetitive if he kept sort of doing what he was doing, bothering Michael or whatever. If you know, but to get an episode where you can really dig into it that way and get that backstory and get that stuff, I mean, that's worth 10 or 15 of those. So it's a nice way to go out. You know, I like the character and I really enjoyed the company of the people on the show. So yeah, I would have loved to be in it more, but to go out that way with that kind of flash and pop was a nice way to go out, and it was nice that we, you know, we'll continue to have an ongoing relationship beyond the show. So that's I had a great time on that show.
With less of your time devoted to specifically Stargate project, you know, you're auditioning for a lot more roles in a lot of different areas. Do you find yourself gravitating towards any different types of roles that you haven't had a chance to do because of?
You know, everything has its merits. I remember when stuff like just finishing pilot season, when stuff like V would come down the pipeline, I was a little bit like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's too much.
Yeah,
like
too much
things.
too soon, and I just went. You know what? If given choices, you certainly want to shy away from stuff that you feel is familiar to you, and err more towards things that you haven't done and you want to experience. And yeah, I think the pilot I'm shooting right now is a show called The Eastmans for CBS, and it's very subtle, very sort of contemporary. It's about the interrelationships between a family of doctors, and it's much more character drama than it is, you know,
Action,
you won't see too many
up.
squibs going off on that one, or you know, car chases, so or spaceship chases. So it's a lot different, and it's refreshing in a way because you really see, working with some really good actors who you can really see the craft of that, you know, character drama coming out and the real subtlety of the acting going on. So it's a very different venue. So I mean, I wouldn't say I'm drawn to it, but I'm just fascinated and happy to be part of it at this particular juncture.
You've got a couple of projects that are coming out here in the next couple of months. There's Desperate Escape, and then there's Living Out Loud, which actually I think premieres in the States next month.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about your roles?
Living Out Loud is with myself and Gail O'Grady, and it was shot in Vancouver, and actually shot like a year ago because they were supposed to have it. It was supposed to be for Mother's Day, and yeah, there's something screwed up, so they didn't release it that Mother's Day. They held on to it, and it's being released this Mother's Day. But I saw a copy of it. It's very good. It's Gail's wonderful, and it's a slice of life story about a family, and the mother finds out that she's got breast cancer and all the trials and tribulations that go on within the family. So, you know, like I said, after doing so much stuff that's based in far-out concepts and you know, saving the world and saving the universe and, you know, trying to save your butt from the villains kind of thing, that to do just a sort of slice of life, simple family story with kids and home and mortgage and blah 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 is a nice departure, and it's a good movie. It's you know, it's not a thriller, and it's not a creature feature. It's a slice of life family movie, and I really enjoyed doing it, as well as really enjoyed watching it. I think it's got a nice heart to it.
And what about Desperate Escape?
Desperate Escape falls into the latter category of loud dun 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 music, and it's a lifetime
So you're the bad
thriller
guy.
movie. I'm not saying who I am in it. I don't
Men
give
are
away
always
anything.
evil in Lifetime
That's
movies.
what I'm saying. If you're a guy in a Lifetime movie, you got two choices. You're either not really that important, or you're the bad guy. Let me just say. So I'll let you decide what it's going to be.
This is becoming almost a biannual question as far as you and I are concerned, but do we have any more movement on Rage of Angels? Have you talked
I'm not
about
even
this?
talking about Rage of Angels anymore. No, it's one of those things where everything I've been told and everything I've said has fallen by the wayside, not been true, or been true and never come to pass. So
Is it dead?
Chris
I don't
was-
know. It's not dead. It's not dead. It's just in terms of timelines. The last thing I was told, I think we talked before, is that I thought it was going to be, this summer, and there's no way in heck that that's happening. So, I prefer to just sort of take the avenue of, hey, when it happens, then I'll talk about it.
That very special producer that you guys found, is that person still interested?
As far as I know, but I haven't talked to Chris in a couple months specifically about that subject.
Okay.
So I haven't. I kind of put it on the side burner kind of thing. So I don't know what's really going on with it. He would be the one to certainly know more about it, and the showrunner that was in it, last I heard, he was still part of it, but that changes, monthly as well. So who knows? We're hopeful, but at the same time, again, you have to be realistic and you have to move forward with what's in front of you and pragmatic and real. So it'll hopefully come to pass. But when it does, then we'll have a conversation about it.
Have to feed the babies.
Yeah.
Exactly. Finally, the last question I have for you. When we talked last time, we had talked a little bit about Maggie Rose and you working on that project on Don's behalf.
Right.
In his memory. Has anything come to pass on that as far
No,
as...
I've been so busy down in Los Angeles with what's going on right now that it'll be literally the next couple of weeks that I'm going to get into conversations about that. So hopefully that's going to be a long process, and I have to find the right people. And looking for financing for an independent film, and right now as economy it's just not the best time. I'm not saying that there's not the right person out there, but there's certainly a lot more legwork that will go into finding the people that will invest in a project that's small and contemporary and doesn't hold a lot of flash pop value. You know what I mean?
All mine now? I'm sure you'd say that Daniel has been a big part of making you a success over the years.
I'm a success? Nobody told me.
As you proceed in your career, you have goals and everything. Does Daniel, even though we love having you back, and even though I'm sure you love coming back, does Daniel, is he ultimately a help or a hindrance after time?
Oh, no, there's no hindrance at all. I think that the thing with the venue that we were on, and certainly no offense to the fans who adore the show, we were a small success by television standards. And so really, it's not a hindrance, it's a wonderful thing to come back to. It's nice to have a job to continue to come back to, quite frankly. Most of the time when I'm going out, nobody, I'm seeing this in LA a lot, nobody knows who the heck I am. They either know way too well who I am, which is really, really strange when you go through a bunch of rooms where they go, who the heck was that? And then you walk into one room where they go, hi! And you go, wow, you really know, and they know everything about the show and all this other stuff. And I've met a few producers who fall into that category. But in terms of it being a hindrance, not at all. I mean, I think it's more of a hindrance in my own mind in terms of lazy actor habits that I fall into.
Less adventurous,
not so much what people,
risky.
what people assume. I mean, yes, certainly you could argue that, well, the things he does on television are close to, who Daniel was. Those are the things you get offered as an actor, that you take to pay the bills kind of thing that are, because they have seen you on this show. So are you going to get typecast? Yeah, but it's not like I played, I wasn't Mark Hamill in Star Wars. It's, like I said, it's a small thing. Most people don't really know who I am, and when I walk into a room, it's starting all over again. So it's certainly not. It's been a help for a lot of years, and I've enjoyed it. So.
Certainly the reason you're here.
Exactly.